And welcome to the Davenport University Football Signing Day Special 2023 version. Got a lot of excitement around the Davenport football program coming off a terrific 8-3 season and a top 20 national finish. And now we find out today about the players that are coming to Davenport for the upcoming season. Some of them transfers from other schools, many of them high school players. It's an exciting day, especially for the high school players who are committing to a college for the first time in their life. We've got a lot of things lined up for you, so stay with us as we can. Joining us today will be assistant coach and recruiting coordinator Lucas Melo. He will be our first guest. Then offensive coordinator and offensive line coach Devin Russell will join us in the second segment. First, though, we welcome Lucas Melo, assistant coach, defensive line coach, run game coordinator, and, of course, today, your primary hat, recruiting coordinator. Let's just talk general, Lucas, how the whole thing's gone for you and your staff as far as getting things in, maybe compare it to last year.
Absolutely. Yeah, this class was interesting. It wasn't quite like last year's class where we kind of had to reload across the board, especially early on for that mid-year signing period. So it was interesting in the fact that we didn't have a bunch of needs. So it was more, we're going to be very specific about what we want, very detailed about what we want. There was a lot of good football players that could play here and at this level, but just weren't quite the fit that we were looking for. So we were able to be a little more specific in those recruiting needs. And once you guys see this class, we feel like we've met all those needs. You
mentioned the fits. What are some of the intangible things that go into the fits that you're talking about?
Yeah, first things first is you got to get guys that are all about the team, guys that love football, guys that are smart football players. In the past, I think we've really focused on length and size and guys that really look the part, and we've had some teams that always look great. But this year, I think we focused more on some of those intangibles and guys that just their film jumped out and looked really good. So you'll see some guys that normally size-wise wouldn't fit the criteria for us, but we felt could really play on the field and fit everything else, and we ended up getting some really good football players that way.
All right, well, why don't we get to it and find out some of the players that are joining the Davenport football program for the upcoming season. We'll start with the transfers, Coach Melo, and let's start at the top. We're going to start on the defensive side. Defensive tackle Corey Prince out of Wofford, a Miami, Florida native.
Yep, so Corey is a kid he was a starter at Wofford, a Division I FCS school. He's a native of Miami, Florida. Him and all these other transfers we're going to talk about have been here since the beginning of the semester, so we're really excited about that. We're able to get those guys in the weight room, able to just kind of buy into the culture and things we're doing now. Corey's been great.
You mentioned getting into that weight room, how crucial that is for the transition to spring ball, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, staying on the defensive line, Reed Snitker, a defensive end from the University of Northern Iowa, an Iowa native from Cedar Falls.
Yep, Reed's great. Reed's a big, strong, physical kid. Doing a great job in the weight room right now, learning the defensive scheme kind of from afar while we're recruiting right now. Just excited to get to work with those guys here shortly.
Going out west for at least a native venture, a California native, Keon Betancourt, went to William & Jewell, team we know a little bit about.
Yep. So Keon was a guy he started over at William & Jewell and felt like he needed a change of scenery, somewhere where he'd come in and contribute. And we lose a lot of key pieces at that linebacker spot, so he gets to come in and compete right away.
Lucas, so much we hear about as college football fans about the transfer portal and how that affects. Most of that you read about on the Division I and the top levels like that. But how does the transfer portal play into you and your staff and what you have to do and the needs you need to meet?
It's been huge for us. Last year, I think we talked about it again, just the signing class we had mid-year last year was unbelievable. It's kind of almost, when I tell people about it, it's a little unrealistic when you say you signed 35 guys mid-year. It revamped our whole offense. We had to start from scratch. So, like I said, this year we didn't have to go as heavy into it. We just, kind of spot recruited certain positions to replace guys that we lost. But it's been great for us. Obviously you lose guys in the transfer portal. But, as far as the transfer portal and junior colleges have been really good for us here as a young program.
Back to the player list on the defensive side, a rover, a local guy from Zeeland, went to Saginaw Valley, Josh Fusco.
Yep, Josh Fusco. So he was a starting rover out at Saginaw for a few years, and he's a guy who's very well known in the GLIAC, has done a great job. You know, he wanted to get a little closer to home, be closer to his family. He came on over, and he's been phenomenal for us so far. Very, very impressive athlete in the weight room and everything that we've done so far.
I think Josh started against us for Saginaw Valley last year. And what's that like as far as getting a player who wants to come back home? There have been a number of players that have done that to you. How much do you sell that for a kid a chance to come back to their roots?
Well, you know, it's interesting because obviously you can't talk to these guys or recruit them while they're on another team. But we had a relationship with Josh before he went to Saginaw. You know, it was actually before I got here, but Coach Mack and Coach Walker had recruited him before he went to Saginaw, and they had a previous relationship with him. And when he entered the portal and just was looking for a new place to go, it was kind of a perfect fit.
Staying in the defensive backfield, another transfer, Xavier Marquez, a Rover from Monroe, Taftville, Connecticut native.
Yep, so, you know, the common theme here with our Rovers is these are guys that can play multiple different positions. You know, you don't specifically recruit a Rover. You recruit a guy that can play safety, strong safety, linebacker, nickel, and that's where Xavier is great because he's such a versatile athlete who can do so many different things, and, you know, it's great to have him here.
How often does it come up, Lucas, when you're recruiting a guy, maybe you say as a Rover and he says, no, I see myself as a linebacker, or I see myself as a safety. Does that happen very often? You have to kind of sell them on that, or are they usually pretty open to it?
I think in the past maybe because, you know, I don't know if we've always had the identified this is what that Rover is. You know, it's kind of a tweener between so many different positions. But now that identity of that position's been kind of set in stone for us, and you know those two guys that we just mentioned there are the prototypical Rovers because they can cover, they can tackle, they can essentially be linebackers or safeties, and do multiple different things for us.
Speaking of safety, a guy you did recruit as a safety, at least to start, Alaric Wooten, a transfer from Western Illinois, Detroit native.
Yep, yeah. Wooten's a very impressive athlete. He's a hard-hitting safety. He's gonna knock your face off every time he puts his body on you. So he's gonna be one of those guys that we're bringing in here to, you know, just bring the physicality in this defense. And I know that's not something you usually say about a defensive back, but you know, as you guys will see from this class, that was a main priority for us, having been the #1 pass defense in the conference this year, and you know, top 2 the last few years. So now we just want to get more physical there and have guys that can really set the point for us.
Another West Coast native out of Bakersfield, California, Christopher Thompson, a cornerback, went to Bakersfield Community College.
Yeah, Chris is going to be a great corner, but remember when I tell you this, Rick, he's an unbelievable punt returner. When you watch his film, you'll see this guy get the ball in his hands, and he's pretty electric with it. So excited to see him do what he does.
When these transfers come in, Lucas, obviously you must rely on your veterans as far as getting them to, you know, to start to meld with all the rest of the existing players, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And this, going back to just the class as a whole, it's a little different, especially in that secondary, because we graduate 7 starters on the defense, in the back 7 on defense. So a lot of the guys that those guys are meshing with now are young guys who've been here and know the system, but haven't necessarily had a lot of experience on the football field for us in games. But those guys are all just getting to know each other. They're all buying into what we're preaching right now, and excited to see what they can do. Another
cornerback, this time from the East Coast, Edison, New Jersey native Ty Martin from Monroe College.
Yeah, Ty is he's impressive. He's a 6'3" corner, so he's more in the mold of the guys we've had here in the last few years. You know, he's a guy that this spring is going to be crucial for him because he's going to get in that weight room. He's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. The length is there. The talent's there. This kid is a Division I talent who, you know, just kind of slipped through the cracks for us, and we're excited to have him.
Staying in the defensive backfield, Kimani Fields is a Michigan native from Pontiac, went to Lake Erie College.
Yep, so Kimani was their starting corner over at Lake Erie last year, and did a good job for those guys. And, you know, they had a couple of different staff changes or whatnot, and he wanted to get closer to home and reached out to us, and he's been here all winter so far, and he's been doing a good job.
Lucas, as you reach out to players, the fact that we mentioned, of course, having such a successful 2022 season, finishing in top 20 in the nation in D2, are you seeing a difference in the perception of Davenport when you reach out to kids?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest difference in the perception is more in the state itself. You know, I think when you go out of state, and we've had a lot of success out of state, the guys, you know, I think Davenport brand's kind of nationwide right now. Now Michigan, there's a lot of different schools, and these guys aren't necessarily always aware of what Davenport is yet. But now after this season, that's definitely changed. We've been able to get some of the top players in the state, as you guys will see here.
Then we're going to go to the offensive side now for the transfers. Running back from Sebastian River, Florida, went to West Virginia Wesleyan, JAVIAN Tomlinson.
Yeah, JAVIAN is a huge running back. He was a big-time back out of high school there in Sebastian River and did a lot of really good things. Went to a smaller school, a Division II, but a smaller Division II. West Virginia Wesleyan was their top back, and you know, did what he could there. But you know, you bring a big guy like that with a lot of experience, who the sky's the limits with him. You know, you put our big O line in front of him, that guy's gonna have some holes.
Excuse me, the guy we know from Wayne State University, MYREN Harris. I mean, he ran for almost 300 yards in one game, I believe, at Northern Michigan, and he ran for a 38-yard touchdown against us. You got him in.
For sure, yeah. That's, you know, out of all our guys, I'm probably most excited about him just because we don't have to play against him anymore. Guys kept me up at night for many years, and super excited to have him. He's a great teammate. He's a great kid in the weight room. He's doing phenomenal for us. Just, you know, another great running back to add into that really impressive room that we have. You know, we have a really good running back room already, and then you add those two guys, and excited to see what Coach Dev gets going with these guys here.
Yeah, you got a loaded running back room there. We're going to the offensive line now. Nevin Summerfield, an offensive lineman from Pittsburgh.
Yep, so Coach Russell did a great job bringing these guys in here, and you know, they're working their butts off, they're getting after it. You know, Nevin was the first one that actually committed to us in the mid-year signing period, and he's been as bought in as it gets. His body's transforming from the time he came here on a visit to where it is now, and you can see the difference every single day. He's gonna do some big things for us.
How much time are your players allowed to put in the weight room on their own? And are there restrictions for that, Lucas? Or is it much as they want on their own?
No, there are some restrictions, and all of that is kind of tied into, you know, their lift times. These guys are running at 6 o'clock in the morning every morning, then they go eat, and then they go into the weight room for an hour, and they do that. You know, and then once we're done off the road here, obviously after today, we'll be able to spend a little more time with these guys. You know, so right now they've just been grinding, they've just been working, getting ready to go.
Back to the offensive line from Tolleson, Arizona, went to Garden City Community College, Lee Sampson.
Yeah, Lee's another big offensive lineman who comes from one of the best junior college programs in the country. You know, these guys are every year in the contention for junior college national championship. So anytime you get a guy out of Garden, he's going to be very well coached, and that's what Lee is. He's a big, physical, athletic, big fella who's once again is going to pave the way for us.
Yeah, you see a lot of the same community colleges going after those titles, and one of those in Southern California, Fullerton Community College, SHEROD Green. He's a Detroit native, went out west, you got him back home.
Yep, so SHEROD's another one. He's, you know, Fullerton's one of the top junior colleges out in California every year. And he's been up there the last few years, and he was one of our later guys that committed. Finally got him up here on a visit last week, and he committed, and we're excited to have him. He's going to do great things for us. He's very excited to be back in Michigan. And
another offensive lineman to another one. Maybe, you know, at least in the last 20 years, no one's probably had more success moving players on than Independence Community College from Irmo, South Carolina, to Sean Brooks.
Yeah, Brooks is a big-time kid. You know, he's a 3-star recruit. He's a guy who had offers from multiple Division I schools. You know, that relationship with Independence has been great for us. They've produced our all-conference kicker, our starting long snapper, our all-conference wide receiver, our other starting tackle. So those guys have been great for us. They've been doing some great things, and they've been pumping out some really good football players, and Brooks is just the next one in line to do great things here.
Hang in there. We are going to get to the high school signings a little bit later on as well, but moving over to the tight end position, we got a couple tight end transfers. First of all, from Northern Michigan, right in the GLIAC, Jackson Malcolm from Almont, Michigan.
Yeah, really excited about this one. This is a big, strong, physical kid who actually, you know, due to depth on their defensive line there with some injuries, they moved him to defensive line, started a few games from him on the D-line, and did really well, you know. But when you watch his high school film, you watch what he was able to do at tight end, and he's an impressive athlete. You see him walking around. He's all of 6'5", 58 pounds, just a grown man who's going to do some good things for us.
Lucas, when players transfer, a primary, we got to be open about it. A primary goal of theirs is playing time.
Yep.
How much is that discussed when you're recruiting these, when these transfers come to you, they're in the portal? How much are you allowed to talk about, or how much do you talk about potential playing time?
I think it's important to mention to these guys that we're bringing them in not to just be a body. This is a roster of 130 guys. We don't need bodies. We need guys to come in here and compete for jobs. So the tight end room is a place. We lost our starting tight end, and we brought in 2 guys that can come in and compete with the guys that are already here. And that's kind of, no one's guaranteed anything, but it's just finding guys that are not afraid of competition and want to compete.
Well, you mentioned 2 guys. That other one from Quincy University, Keith NEMASANGO, Florida native.
Yep. So Keith is a big, strong physical athlete out of Oviedo, Florida. He's been the starting tight end at Quincy the last couple of years, and I actually knew about Keith coming out of high school. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get him out of high school just based on needs, but he ended up going to Quincy and has done a great job, and we're excited to have him. He's already put on close to 20 pounds since he's been here, so wow. He's doing a great job right now for us.
Let's go to the wide receiver. You've got a good one. I've heard good things about Antoine Collins from Winston-Salem State.
Yep, Antoine Collins is a kid. He's here right now, and he's a guy who can play inside, outside, shifty, very athletic. With the ball in his hands, he's going to do some great things for us. And like I said, excited to see what role he takes in this offense that right now the receiver room is wide open. So. Yeah,
you lost some quality receivers. You got some good ones coming back, but you established that offensive passing game last year, and that's got to be an appeal. When you saw Davenport putting the numbers up, that appeals to the offensive guys.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Staying with the wide receiver room, Deontay Griffin, a wide receiver from McHenry, who Bloomington, Illinois native, another good one.
Yep, yeah, Deontay has had a great career out there at McHenry. They've put up a lot of points, and especially in the passing game. And, I believe he's coming in with, I think he had 600 yards receiving last year, so he's going to be a great addition to come in and compete and be able to add on to our very prolific passing game as is.
600 yards, that's a pretty good total. Looking forward to seeing Deontay out there. That's a look at the transfers joining the Davenport football program. Time now to take a look at the high school signees today. It is the first Wednesday of National Letter of Intent Signing Day for high school football players. Many of them in the early signing period signed in December at the Division I level, but for the D2 it's a little different story. Assistant coach and offensive coordinator Devin Russell joins us right now. And Devin, first let's talk a little bit about that. A lot of talk, for the national scene on the Division I level about the early signing day. At the D2 level, you don't get a lot of kids signed early, do you?
No, usually we're talking at early signing days, the mid-year guys. The guys that Coach Melo was going through, those are the guys that we're trying to get in from the junior colleges or the transfers, try to get them in so that when January 9th hits and we start that second semester, they can get classes under their belt, get in the weight room, get familiar with their teammates, and get ready to roll for spring ball.
I'll ask you, Devin, the same thing I asked Coach Melo. Coming off a successful year like that, getting 8-3 and getting a national ranking like that, what differences are you seeing in the perception out there of the players and their families of Davenport football now?
I mean, it makes it a little easier when you can tell someone what your record is and where you're at. We still have a lot of work to do. It's my first year here, so I don't really know anything from a perception beforehand personally, but from obviously being around, I think our name in Western Michigan has obviously gets people more excited quickly, right? And so, it's been great. We still have a lot of work to do, and we're looking forward to getting into this next segment here and win some more games.
Well, speaking of West Michigan, we're going to start out on the offensive side with a couple of names that if you're a high school football fan in West Michigan, a couple of names you're going to recognize right away, a couple of quarterbacks. We're first going to talk about quarterback Mac VANDENHOUT from Rockford High School, terrific high school athlete and terrific career for Rockford.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to see through this whole list is a lot of guys from some of the premier programs in Michigan, and I think that's always something I'm excited about because you have guys in the program that know what winning takes on a day-to-day basis, and Mac's no different. He has the skill set. He can run, he can throw, he can lead, and those are all things that you're looking back from that quarterback position. And obviously we got a pretty good guy from Rockford here right now as well. So looking forward to kind of having him carry on that tradition.
You're talking about Jason Whitaker, a GLIAC all-conference performer like that, Rockford native. Was Jason involved at all to help you recruit?
I think anytime your quarterback's back, he's involved in everybody's recruiting, whether he knows it or not. So, yeah, a little bit, I'd say.
Another name very familiar to local fans in the West Michigan area, Bernie Barnsdale, a quarterback from West Catholic High School here in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, anytime you're a state champion quarterback, that's someone we want. You know, to all those intangibles, all those things we talked about. We had Bernie over here for camp, obviously known him for a long time, and definitely excited to get him in the program and help be a leader with those young guys in the locker room.
Well, you know, you mentioned here's two quarterbacks we just talked about, Devin, and you've got a heck of a quarterback room right now going into the season without any additions. How do you sell kids on that when you know they're coming into a situation where there is a lot of talent already?
Well, I think it's pretty simple, honestly. I think you have an opportunity to come in and learn from guys that have done it, which helps. You know, that blueprint's laid out a little bit. They can show you, it's not just about going to practice and going to weights and going to meetings. It's how you do those things. And you have an opportunity to look at a Johnny, a Jason, a Grant, all guys that have played here and say, hey, here's how you sit in a meeting. Here's how you take notes in a meeting. Here's how we lift weights. All those things of how to prepare for practice. And for a young guy coming in, it's a great opportunity to see it opposed to just being told it by a coach.
Well, you mentioned Bernie winning a state championship, another young man who's won a state championship in his high school days. You've got coming over from the Jackson area, Lumen Christi High School running back Derrick Walker.
Yeah, really excited about Derrick. Versatility, you know, and we talked about it with these skill guys on their visit is we need some guys that can come in and do a lot of different things, and Derrick's one of those guys that can run the ball, he can catch the ball. At the end of the day, he's explosive.
You mentioned versatility with Derrick. Also, another running back, Sterling Anderson, recruited as a running back and athlete. How does that versatility play in for his skill set?
Same thing. From an offensive coordinator standpoint, there's nothing more you want than guys that can do a lot of different things with the football, because that makes defenses have to plan for a lot of different things. So both Derrick and Sterling we're real excited about. Again, MLK, one of the best programs in the state of Michigan, and excited to get those guys in here.
Let's go to the offensive line. As the offensive line coach, you've got a double hat that you wear as you're recruiting these kids, and also you know that they're going to play under your tutelage for the offensive line. You've got a bunch of good ones coming in. First of all, from Shaker Heights, Ohio, offensive lineman TREY GUICE.
Yeah, I've known Trey for a couple years now. Had an opportunity to get to know him and his family, and we're definitely excited to get him up here. Shaker Heights is a good program over there on the east side of Cleveland, well coached, and great frame. Going to have an opportunity to come in and put the work in, and definitely excited to get him up here.
Speaking of good program, how about Belleville, Michigan's KACY Gordon, the offensive lineman, the one he's coming from?
Yep, it's the same thing. Guys that know how to win and know what winning takes. KACY's right in that mold. He's played a lot of football at Belleville, won a lot of football games, and he knows what it's going to take to get that done at the next level. So excited to get him up.
Another Martin Luther King High School product from the Detroit area, ZONTEZ CALHOUN on the line.
Yeah, ZONTEZ is someone I had an opportunity to work with at a camp in the summer, and really liked him. He's lean. He's in that 255 range right now, which as an offensive line coach, anytime you get a kid in that's 6'4", 6'5", 255, you can start picturing in your head what that's going to look like in a year or two. And again, coming from MLK, he knows what it takes.
You mentioned the camp, Devin. In the camps, you don't have the full contact that you would have in the fall. How do you assess players on the line in camps when you don't have that contact to judge?
Yeah, it's just nice being able to first and foremost kind of size guys up. You know, a lot of times when you're getting film on a guy or getting a sheet or seeing it on Twitter, you got to kind of say, all right, he says he's 6'4", he's probably 6'2". Does he weigh 300 pounds or does he really weigh 330 pounds? You know, and so when you get your eyes on him in the summer at a camp, you just know, right? So for me, if I can look you in the eyes, then I'm cool. And then, from a football standpoint, we can see him bend. We can see him get 2 steps in the ground. We can see him strike. And those are really the things that we're looking for.
Well, you've got Zontez's teammate from Martin Luther King, Jalen Courtney, coming in also.
Yeah, don't go too far if you don't have to,
no.
Right? And Jalen's that same guy. Had a chance to work with him at our camp here and like what he was doing. Again, all these guys, really, they're versatile as well. So Jalen can play center, Jalen can play guard, and so those are things that we like, right? Because as offensive linemen, we don't always get 10, 12 guys on the bus, right? Because not a lot of us are running down on kickoff. So if you can only dress 8, you want guys that can move around and do a lot of different things, and I think Jalen's one of those guys as well.
Especially with the normal attrition you're going to have with injuries
Right,
on the offensive
right.
line. That's a factor, of course. Still on the east side, but from East Course High School, Connor Haynes, another lineman.
Yeah, Connor's a monster. I mean, he's a big fella, and we're excited to get him over here. Bends well for a big guy, can get 2 steps in the ground, has good hands, and really just a nice guy to be around. And I think he's going to bring a lot of positivity, great work ethic to the program, and excited to get him in.
Staying on the east side from Southfield, Michigan, Southfield A&T High School's Xavier Davis.
Yep, Xavier, again, from one of those programs that everybody knows about, right? Southfield, and strong work ethic, little undersized, but I think he plays with a little chip on his shoulder, and looking forward to get him over here.
A local product from Forest Hills Northern High School, not too far from here, Armand Singh.
Same exact situation. Armand's a guy that I think he's a little undersized. He knows that, but doesn't play like it. He really gets after it and puts the work in and wants to be good both in the classroom and on the field.
Let's go to the tight end position next. Of course, Coach Melo mentioned that you lost a pretty good tight end last year, and so you had a couple transfers come in, but you also recruited one from a stone's throw from here, from East Kentwood High School, Nate COBBS, tight end.
Yeah, Nate's one of those guys. It's what you look for in tight ends, guys that are versatile, right? Can he put his hand in the ground and block down into C gap? Can he line up out and run passes? And I think he's a guy that can do that. So, when you can move a guy around and do those things, it really helps. It really helps base defenses out and makes them communicate. And I think Nate's going to do a great job here. Heck of an athlete, plays multiple sports. A lot of these guys are multiple sport athletes, and those are all those things that we're looking for.
Well, we're going to get to the wide receiver spot, and generically we mentioned, we've got some excellent wide receivers coming back, but you lost some at the very top last year. So you've got a pack coming in, starting with Renaissance High product, Jason Gamblin.
Yeah, he's an athlete. He plays multiple sports. He can run. He's tall. He's in that 6'2", 6'3" range. Can play inside or outside, and did both, which is always nice. And he can catch the bubble and take it to the house. He can beat you vertical. One of those guys. Definitely excited to get in and start working with. Wide
receiver from Chippewa Valley High School, KAELIN Shaw.
Yeah, explosive. I mean, at the end of the day, he's explosive. He's a guy that when he gets the ball, if there's space, he's going to make you pay for it. So makes my life a lot easier, makes the quarterback's job a lot easier, right? If no one's right on him, just get it to him and let him do his thing.
You've seen in your coaching years, Devin, the advent of you've seen the run and shoot offenses evolve into the spreads and all the different things. And it's such a big part of the games all the way down to the high schools now. So you get a chance to maybe assess those wide receivers a little bit better than maybe before when they're coming from traditional offenses?
Yeah, I think, it always helps when you can see guys making plays on film similar to the plays you're going to ask them to make in college. Not saying we'll take a guy if we think he's good no matter what, but it always helps a little bit in that evaluation process. Say, all right, we threw him a bubble, he took it 80 yards to the house. Like, I think we can throw him a bubble and let him take it 80 yards to the house. So it always helps. So that's always good. And pretty much nowadays, everybody's kind of running similar stuff one way or another.
Historically, Davenport's gotten some good players from the Lansing area, and you went back to Lansing Waverly High School for wide receiver Martavian Robinson.
Yeah, versatile. A kid that I think defenses are always going to have to keep an eye where he is when he's on the field. He's one of those guys that when Coach Melo and the fellows are drawing things up on Sunday and Monday, you got to put his number up there opposed to his position, because you got to know where he's going to be before each play, because he can go a variety of different places.
Sounds like a T-shirt there. I'm a Coach Melo fellow.
I think those are out there.
Yeah. Staying with the wide receiver, back to the east side, Detroit University prep product CAMARE O'Neal.
Yeah, Kamare's got that catch radius. He can get out there and make a quarterback's life very easy, right? Get it around him, and he'll go get it. Big kid, 6'3", 6'4", and he can get after it pretty much right away. and make plays when that ball's in the air, which always helps those quarterbacks get comfortable.
Also from the east side, Cass Tech product from the Motor City, Justin Madison.
Yep, another guy from one of those programs that everybody knows, understands what winning is going to take, and just a good athletic guy. Excited to get him in the weight room, put a few pounds on him, but explosive, dynamic, all those words that you use to describe wide receivers, those are the things that he can do.
All right, Coach, that wraps up the offensive side. Now, these players have signed. You've got their national letter of intent in-house. They'll be coming here. What's their next step? What kind of contact will you have with them? Will they have with you and the university between now and summer?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for these guys that we start preaching now is signing day is important, signing day is great, and it's a big step in all of their lives, but it's also a beginning. It's not a finish line, it's really a starting line. And so we're excited to get him in, and now the work begins.
Offensive coordinator and offensive line coach Devin Russell. We'll come back and we'll talk with Lucas Melo once again about the defensive high school signings today on National Letter of Intent Signing Day for Davenport. Assistant coach Lucas Melo and recruiting coordinator rejoined us once again as we've looked at the transfers and the high school signings on the offensive side. We're going to go back to the defensive side now. And Coach Melo, let's start out on the defensive line from Lake Mary. In Lake Mary, Florida, C.J. Sheets, a long way from home, but he's a good one.
Yeah, C.J. is actually a kid from the high school I went to down in Florida, so that's nice to have a fellow Ram here. He's actually here right now. He's an early enrollee. So we had a couple of those guys here last year. Trent, who's actually an all-conference guard for us, is a true freshman, and then Vinny Booth, who redshirted for us last year. So CJ is in the same mold as that. He's here right now, and he's getting bigger, stronger, faster every single day. So he's going to be a good one for us. What
kind of context do you have down there now from your old stomping grounds back in Florida as far as the high school coaches that you can go to and talk to now?
I think, as the years have gone on, I've built relationships with guys that maybe I didn't have in the past. Everywhere I've ever been, we brought in a lot of Florida guys, and you do right by them, and you take care of those kids as much as you can. Unfortunately, not able to take everybody, but we've had a lot of success with those guys here, so I think that continues that relationship.
From all the way down south in Florida to, I don't know, about a 3-minute drive from here, from Caledonia High School, defensive tackle CARLO AYBAR.
Yeah, super excited about CARLO. Big, strong, physical kid. Started for Caledonia's really good team this year on both offense and defense. I love that because obviously it shows that he's got, he's in shape, he can run, and he's going to do great things here and be a hometown hero.
Staying on the defensive line from Roseville High School in the Detroit area, Desmond Merriweather.
Desmond's another one. We talk about being in shape, which I love. You want these guys that are athletic and have the win. Desmond is probably going to win a state championship in wrestling. I'm a former wrestler. I love wrestlers, and I think Des is going to be a great player for us here. He's going to do both sports here as well, so that's exciting for him.
Yeah, your eyes light up whenever you get a chance to look at a wrestler, right?
Oh, yeah, love it.
Because you know what that means from a footwork standpoint right there. All right, help me out here, Coach. We just left off with Desmond, right?
Yep.
Okay, let's stay on the defensive line. Colin McGuckin is from Schwartz Creek, Michigan, Schwartz Creek High School, defensive end. That's joining us as well.
Yeah, Colin's a great one. He was one of the first guys that committed during the fall year. He's been here multiple times. He took his official visit here last weekend, and excited to get him. He's a long, athletic kid who's going to grow into being an absolute stud for us.
Back to Florida, Freeport, Florida. I'm not sure where that is. Maybe you can educate me there. Uriah Frith from Freeport High School.
Yep, Freeport's kind of by the Panhandle, by Pensacola a little bit. Had a chance to work with Uriah at a camp this summer when me and Coach Lewis went down there. And now you talked about these camps that aren't full pads. This was 3 days of full padded camp practice camps there, and it was awesome. Got a chance to see this kid really go to work. Saw the coaching that he took, and he's going to be really good for us. Excited.
Also another native from Orlando, Florida, Cypress Creek High School, Austin Steef. I think I'm getting it right, am I?
Yep. So Austin is he's an impressive athlete, 4.0 student. He had offers from Ivy League schools and some FCS schools, and decided to come here. And he's a guy who's extremely explosive, extremely strong, plays with a relentless motor. He's going to be a kid that has a chance to come in here and compete to play early.
Let's get to the linebacker room now, the high school signings, and coaches seem to think we can never have enough linebackers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
KAELIN Smith is from Edgewater High School, again, Florida native from the Orlando area.
Yep, so KAELIN is he's a really smart football player, really smart kid. He actually graduated early. He's a December graduate. He's not a guy that early enrolled, but he is one that is, you know, that speaks volumes of a kid to graduate that early, and now he's just down there in Florida working out and getting ready to come here and join us. He's going to be a heck of a football player for us.
Here in Michigan, a high school program we're hearing more and more about the last few years from Dexter, Michigan, Dexter High School's Brendan Valerio.
Yep, Brandon's a long, athletic, versatile linebacker, can do a lot of different things, can run sideline to sideline. He's another guy who's a wrestler, really well put together, excited to see how he grows.
A linebacker from River Rouge High School, a strong program in Detroit, Christian Ward Lewis.
Yep, this is another 4.0 student. As you're seeing the trend here, you know, one of the biggest things we're looking for on defense is guys that are smart football players and love the game. And Christian is exactly that. He's very smart, you know, 4.0 guy, runs around, plays like his hair's on fire, and is just a great leader overall.
You know, you and Coach Russell and all your coaches talk about, and I've heard Sparky mention a number of times to me about that love of the game.
Yep.
How do you, what kinds of things do you look for to see that a guy loves the game?
You know, you like to find some kind of competitive advantage these guys have, right? Something that gives them an edge. You know, so like for example, for Christian, you see how dedicated he is to his studies. You see how impressive he is on film. And, you know, as you build a relationship with these guys and you get to talking to them, you can kind of weed out some of that. There's certain guys that are more interested in what football can do for them, not necessarily just loving the game, and you try to weed those guys out.
Well, we mentioned one Rockford High School player from the area earlier, but linebacker Ty Seagard also joining you.
Yep, so Ty's another one. He's a really good athlete, really good football player, big, strong, physical kid. Actually played defensive end for Rockford. We're going to try to roll him out at first as a linebacker, see how that goes. He's a kid we 100% think can do it, you know, but it also, me trying to hog all the good football players, I might want to, you know, snag them over, play a little DN to get after the quarterback a little bit.
Linebacker from Florida again, is that Oviedo, Florida?
Yep. Oviedo,
Florida, Omari Mohammed Wyatt.
Yep, so Omari is a physical specimen. This is a kid who's played quarterback, running back, wide receiver, linebacker, and takes over football games. He's a really good football player. He's a guy that's an absolute steal for us. This kid should be playing at a Division I school, but we got him here. He's a kid that we think can come in and contribute as a freshman.
Well, he brought a teammate with him on the defensive backfield side, Rover Noel Keller.
Yep, so there's actually three of them from Oviedo. Yep. Noel is he's another one. He's a super versatile player, kind of like those two transfer Rovers that we brought in. Can play linebacker, could play the nickel for us, could play strong safety for us. Keller's a lot bigger now than he was when the season started, so we were really thrilled to see that when he came up on his visit. He's a guy that I think is going to just blossom and be able to compete as early as a freshman, honestly.
I think that Oviedo High School coach is one of your new best friends, isn't he?
Yeah, no doubt.
Back to Martin Luther King, another product from the Motor City area, Dayon Johnson.
It's another one. You know, we're seeing a lot of these guys who, like I said, high academic guy, 3.8 kid. He's a two-star recruit out of a great program in King. He's a kid who could play middle linebacker, rover for us. He could play the strong safety for us. He can do a lot of different things. Played some running back at King. Just a great athlete all around. Excited to get him.
We'll go to the defensive backfield. We talked about a few of the transfers you got coming in earlier in the program, but on the high school side, we start right here in West Michigan, Wyoming High School, home of the Wolves. Kevin Underwood, a defensive back.
Yep, Kevin is a coach's son. Okay, he's a great athlete. Could play running back, play DBs. Another two-star recruit out of Wyoming. Was their top guy. He's going to be a great addition for us. He's a really put together kid who can do a lot of different things.
Wall Lake Western High School over on the east side has produced a number of outstanding athletes through the years. And Daryl Jones Jr., a cornerback, coming here for Davenport.
Yep, so Daryl is a part of this list of DBs here that we got there. Very, very talented, very athletic, a true cover guy. Really excited to see what he can do. Another two-star recruit who comes from a good program and come in here and compete.
Another River Rouge High School product from the Detroit area, Markel Guilford.
Yep, Markel is an absolute stud. He's a guy who, you know, we got him late. You know, he was one of our late commits. To be honest with you, we were full at that position, and, you know, we had to move some things around to make this work, you know, because this was a kid we couldn't not take. You know, he's very impressive. And another guy who's a highly ranked guy, 2-star guy out of River Rouge is going to definitely compete here.
You signed 3 high school safeties. You know, you mentioned a little bit earlier about with your transfers coming in about the versatility to play cornerback or safety in that. Is that something you're also looking for at the high school level?
Absolutely, just because you can, you know, you try to project what these guys are going to look like in a year from now or 2 years from now, and that safety position is always one that the projections don't always go as planned, but you go get the best football players you can at that position, and sometimes they're some of the best athletes, and they end up as rovers, as linebackers, you know, and so on and so forth. Some become corners, and you know, and that's how we try to weed this thing out.
One of those 3 safeties coming in, Kendrick Britt out of Loyola High School in Detroit.
Yeah, Britt is a super physical safety. He's a guy who's going to come down and smack you. Definitely a good football player, big body. One of those guys that, you know, we talk about projections. We could see this kid playing multiple different positions. You know, he's good enough to do that.
From Davison High School in Davison, Michigan, Zach Papadakis.
Really smart football player, really physical football player, played receiver, linebacker, rover, safety. Super excited to see what this kid's gonna turn out. He's 6'2", 200 pounds right now as an 18-year-old kid. Had offers from everybody in the GLIAC and chose to come here with us, and he's gonna do some great things. And
the final player of that trio coming from the Davenport feeder program down in high school football in Oviedo, Florida, safety Owen Aycock.
Long, physical, athletic, really smart football player. You know, he's going to make a lot of plays for us. This kid is, you know, he's going to find a way on the field somehow, some way, and, you know, he's going to definitely make an impact here for us.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, Lucas, along with Devin Russell today. As we wrap things up, let's talk about the next step. Now, we talked a little bit about the high school players. Now, they can't really come and practice with you or anything, but the players that are here currently and the transfers that are already in, most of them are already here on campus enrolled and taking classes and training weights. What's the next step as far as spring ball, getting ready for spring ball?
Yeah, so, you know, we'll continue to hit the weight room, continue to do the running, the speed training that we've been doing. You know, now the coaches are finally done recruiting, and we can kind of spend a little more time with these guys as much as is allowed, and then get ready to get into spring ball. Spring ball for us will get rolling here right after spring break. So until then, these guys are just getting after it, and then once we get going, we'll hit the ground running. And we'll get to see what we got. Well,
you can keep a track on, of course, the football program as well as all of the football and sports teams at Davenport at dupanthers.com. Check that out, and you'll find out more about what the spring activities are as far as what type of spring practices and spring events that they'll have a little later in the year. And then we get going with the season that'll start Labor Day weekend, a home game for Davenport. Make sure you join us for that one. We'll have the broadcast, of course, on dupanthers.com. I want to thank you for joining us today. So for assistant coaches Devin Russell and Lucas Melo, I'm Rick Berkey saying so long and go Panthers.